What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to Week 5 of the UNPL Pokemon Draft League. This week we take on Incog, the coach of Backs to the Future, and we are looking forward to an amazing match. Before we jump into it, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, we're going to do a quick team builder, but if you want to skip ahead to the battle, there will be a timestamp down below. Now, Incog's team is really scary. It's yet another weather war, the third weather war that we fought in the past 4 weeks. So I'm kind of getting sick of opposing weather, but that's okay. He actually took over for Bread when Bread dropped, and is actually the reason that I got Great Tusk. So it's I'm kind of thankful for that, but at the same time, he built a very scary hard sand team. And yeah, it's really tough with Excadrill plus T-Tar plus Latios. That's a really good offensive sand core. Greninja, really good, gives him some priority. Thunderous Therian gives him an electric immunity, which is really good, and that thing hits like a truck. Monkey Dory as a Terra captain is really great. I had Monkey Dory non-Terra last season, and it put in work, and now that it has Terra, it's even better. Whimsicott, which is super annoying. Delphox, really cool mon, normally a great Terra captain, but he chose not to Terra it this time. Phalanx, which is pretty cool. We've also got Swalot and Terra Vigoroth, all really cool things. So looking at his team, you know, obviously I want to win this weather war and win with rain. And I think that with having the rain up, I think we've got a really good shot at winning. However, if we lose the weather war, I think we just kind of get swept by Excadrill. So I wanted to build a team that could do really well and could match up well into his team most of the time. And I've built some interesting things for this week. So let's take a look at what I brought. First up, coming off the bench for the first time this whole season is Big Beartic. This mon is really cool. I've been just going off of Kingdra all season, but this week I want to bring Beartic because I think it actually has a better matchup. The ice, ground, and fighting coverage pretty much hits his entire team, and so I think this just works out better. We're max attack, 212 speed, so in Swift Swim, I believe that was for Scarfed Thunderous, so that way we can outrun that if we run into that. We've also got a Lumberry here for possible like Stun Spore or something like that from the Whimsicott, so that could be really good. And then of course Aqua Jet for priority could be good to pick something off that's really low. Next up, we've got Pelipper, pretty standard stuff. Again, max defense Pelipper. I bring this a lot. I need to switch this up in future weeks, but we are Boots just because there are a lot of ways that he can set up rocks with this team, and so I don't want to lose my Pelipper to hazards. Ice Beam, Knockoff, Roost, U-Turn is generally going to be everything that I need there, so I'm pretty well set on that. Next up, Great Tusk, again bringing them on that he gave up in order to hopefully win here. We've got a mostly Spadef set here with 136 speed, close combat, headlong rush, ice spinner, and rapid spin. Nothing too crazy there. Pretty standard stuff overall. Next up, Choice Scarf Palafin. Now, Scarf Palafin actually does a lot of work into my opponent's team, and it allows me to run Adamant max attack. And so this thing is hitting like an absolute truck. This thing is set to be faster than Greninja, which is really great. That's the fastest thing on his team, barring any other Scarfers, but you know, anything above base 100 that's scarfed, I'm going to be slower than anyway, so I might as well throw that into bulk with 184 HP. Wave Crash, Close Combat, Ice Punch hits most of the team that he could bring, and then we've got Flip Turn for momentum if we need to activate our 0 to hero or just get momentum late in the game in order to get a favorable matchup. Now, the heat of the week this week is going to be Sableye. This set is hilarious, and I really want it to work out. We're running Roselli Berry with max Spadef this time with Skill Swap, Thunder Wave, Sucker Punch, Focus Punch. Okay, now hear me out, right? This is a crazy set. Skill Swap is there for a few things. Number one, we can take Sand Rush away from Excadrill. Number two, we could take Volt Absorb away from Thunderous. And there are a couple of other things that really don't want their abilities taken. If we have gotten rid of Prankster prior, we could possibly take Battle Bond away from Greninja. I think it works that way. We could take Toxic Chain away from Monkey Dory. There's a lot of good stuff here that we could use to get rid of those abilities, but really the main tech that I want to work out is the Focus Punch. Focus Punch here is to catch the Excadrill or, more importantly, the Dark types. for those of you who don't know, Prankster, the ability that Sableye has that allows it to go first when using these status moves, doesn't work against dark types. And so my opponent has 2 of them. One is 4 times weak to fighting, and the other is just 2 times. So my goal here is to bring this in on something like Monkey Dory, or something that doesn't want to be taking a Thunder Wave possibly, and kind of bluff that that's what I'm going to go for. Click raw Focus Punch and deal a good amount of damage. So to Greninja, I think I'm dealing like a little over half if it's no bulk, which is pretty fun, and that could put it in Palafin range, which is really the goal here there. So that's really cool. Plus Sucker Punch if we need to chip the Latios down a little bit. So yeah, really fun set this week. And finally, our Chaladon coming through. Assault Vest being one of my favorite sets here. A lot of Spadef on this with Body Press, Draco, and Flash Cannon. I didn't really know what to do for the last move, so I just picked out Dragon Tail. That allows me to phase things around if I need to. If something tries to set up or do something crazy, I can just get it out of there, and this thing can deal with that pretty well. So that is the team for this week. I hope you guys are looking forward to this match. I know that I am. Incog is someone who comes from the free-for-all community, so I know that he's going to bring some heat as well, so I'm very much looking forward to it. So let's find him and get into the match. So here we are in team preview. Now we are doing post-com this week, unfortunately, because due to the time zone changes between my opponent and I had to do this in the morning, and it was right during my daughter's bedtime or nap time rather, and she was not having it. So this is what we're gonna do this week, and I am really pumped to be bringing you this match. I'm just gonna tell you, this was one of the craziest matches and one of the closest matches that I've played in probably years. So this is just an amazing match. So I'm really glad that I'm getting to kind of give my thoughts after the fact here. So yeah, basically with this, the team that I was expecting here is really not the one that I saw. Seeing Latios was kind of interesting because Latios didn't really come in a lot of mocks, and Swalot came in none of my mocks. So Swalot was definitely a huge surprise to me, but I kind of get it. I think it's really there for the Kingdra. Incog said afterwards that he was really scared of Kingdra, and so that's why he brought this Swalot set. And man, it's a cool Swalot set. So I'm excited to get to show that off. But yeah, no Excadrill was really interesting on my opponent's part. I really was scared of that Excadrill, and so I was really doing everything I could to not get absolutely destroyed by it, and then it ended up not coming. So that's pretty cool. So my opponent actually ends up leading off with the T-Tar, and this is really interesting to me, as in mocks and in looking at this matchup, something about this told me that he was going to bring special Tyranitar. I just had this feeling that he was going to bring special T-Tar, a more offensive type of set, because I actually think it's pretty good into my team. I really think that having all of the coverage that Tyranitar has on the special side really does quite a bit of work into my team. So, and I also know that Incog is no stranger to bringing the weird sets if they work. And so yeah, you really don't know what to expect in a match like this. So I go for flip turn 1, and we discover that he is actually Pasho Berry. I was actually scared of like a Scarf T-Tar, so it's really good to see that that's the case. Choppleberry was the other option that I was looking at him possibly being. But either way, Pasho is totally fine, and the fact that it got burned on a flip turn is huge, right? So now I've got to figure out what I want to go into here, and you know, I don't really know exactly what his set is so far, so I'm just going to go into Manny. I can take anything that he wants to go for, physical or special, especially if he goes for T-Bolt, but he goes for Surf actually, which is a really good call on his part. Does a pretty good amount of damage to this. Again, that's why the special set works. Not only do you get that water coverage that would be boosted by my rain, it hits me on the special side, and Tusk is a lot weaker on that special defensive side. So this turn, I don't know why I didn't go with my gut. It's very obvious that he's going to switch into Whimsicott here. And I sat on Ice Spinner for a second, and then I was like, no, he may stay in or go into something else that can take this. But turns out that I did get the call right, and I just didn't commit to it. So unfortunately, he does get the free swap into the Whimsicott, but yeah, it is what it is. And this extra damage would have been really, really nice, because this thing is a real issue. I was kind of expecting possibly like Subseed, and if that was the case, I really didn't have a great option for it. But turns out he's Rocky Helmet, which is super annoying to have to face. That is a gnarly set. So yeah, I wasn't expecting this at all, and it can do work. It can absolutely do work. So my dedicated switch to this is the Archaludon. So we're going to go ahead and go into that. If he wants to paralyze it, that's fine. If he wants to do other shenanigans, whatever he wants to do, but does just go straight for the Moonblast and does get the drop right off rip. That is going to end up making a difference here in a second, and that's really unfortunate that it does. But what's nice is that I do have a couple of Mons built in here who are just immune to the sand, and so they can come in and just kind of sit pretty freely, which is great. I don't need to set up the rain right away. There's nothing really that's pressing as I get some damage off and then go for the late game with Beartic. So I'm not that worried about getting Pelipper in. I want to keep that around for sure. And this thing's in a pretty good position. He can't do that much damage to me. I only took like 60 damage from that first one, which is basically nothing. But I'm also like, he's not staying in here, so I'm just gonna hard Draco on whatever he wants to switch into here as he goes into the TD Jakes, which is the Swalot. This is a great switch, of course, and I go for it, and it does nothing. I was -1 right there. I'm now -3. Either way, this means that this thing is Assault Vest. This thing is way too bulky to be able to take something like that well, even at -1. So here I'm like, okay, he's AV, so he's definitely got 4 attacking moves. One of them is probably Earthquake, so do I want to stay in and take this? At the same time, I think he's pretty heavily invested into the Spadef as well as having the AV, so I really think that my best option is possibly to switch into the Pelipper. However, that's not what I ended up doing. I came really close to doing it, but I actually think that I can take one Earthquake coming off of this and get rid of it with a Dragon Tail, because I really don't want to deal with this right now. But he actually ends up pulling a double, expecting me to switch. And what do we catch? Colgate, and that is the Latios. So we're going to get a big hit off on this Latios, do right at half, and that is really, really great damage, and it gets forced right back out. So huge turn right there, getting some extra damage, and that damage is going to make a huge difference in the end game as well. Again, you will see a little bit later. He gets dragged out into Greninja, which isn't the worst thing in the world, seeing how I am AV. And this does give me a free body press. I could have called the switch, I guess, into Whimsicott, but I think that it's more free to just go for this body press and just let it sit. And again, if Whimsicott comes back in on this, this was my switch in, even if I am at -3. So I go for the body press. It's going to do absolutely nothing because, it's resisted. But we're now in a position where I probably can 2-hit KO him with a Flash Cannon. If I was only at -2, I probably could just one-shot him at this point, well, from where he's at. But I don't think I'm quite able to knock him out at that -3. So that drop really does come back to haunt me here. And so our Archaludon is not going to be able to pick up a KO in this turn like what I was originally wanting it to. So a little bit unfortunate. I was thinking a lot during this match. I definitely wanted to make sure I was making the right plays. And yeah, in some cases I did, and here in a minute you're going to see a case where I absolutely did not. But we go ahead and click the Flash Cannon. He does miss the Stun Spore, which in the grand scheme doesn't really end up mattering unless he would have gotten some para hacks. But you really don't play for that. So he would have possibly had a better shot at doing some stuff if he had gotten a full para. But otherwise that really doesn't matter because I wasn't running any speed on this. So it wasn't meant to go quick. It wasn't meant to do anything crazy. So I don't think that miss ended up making a huge difference in the long run there. But so I'm just gonna click another free flash cannon here, and it's funny just how this thing can just sit, right? Something that's so specially powerful, even at -3, this thing is still chunking down everything. But having that dragon tail is super nice because that's still doing a little bit of chip, and you also have the body press, which is still doing its full amount of damage, which is going up every time that I get hit. So yeah, he's having to switch again, which is really cool. Just shows off just how well this thing can do. We go for another flash cannon here. We're -3. That's going to do about -6 damage. Yeah, this thing takes absolutely nothing. And so at this point, I could Dragon Tail him out again because he's likely going to stay in, but that's also me taking a bunch of damage that I probably don't need to take. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and call that ground move, and we're going to go straight into the Pelipper. Now, he does not end up doing what I thought he was going to do at all, and so as I activate my Drizzle here, he is going to go for the knockoff, which is a really good mid-ground play. He does get rid of my boots, which is fine, honestly. There really isn't all that much anymore that I'm scared of. If he's running offensive T-Tar and he's not running Excadrill, his focus really isn't on setting up hazards, so really that's not a big deal. And if this is AV, then I don't have to worry about T-Spikes, nothing like that. He does go for the Thunder Punch, which I probably should have expected, but that's okay. This does give me a free roost, because if I do roost here, then that means that I'm going to be taking half as much as what he did to me last time. Of course, we are risking the paralysis, but either way, that's totally fine. He does go for the knock again, expecting me to swap, but I end up staying in, and that's fine. At this point, I probably should have U-turned, but it's all good. It's all good. Nigel out here gonna do a little bit of work, right? I think it's a cool mon. I definitely shouldn't be leaving it in so much. Definitely think that I would have been better off switching this back out and saving its HP for later. Even if we do have the roost, we click Ice Beam, deal a little bit of damage. He clicks the Gunk Shot and gets a crit into poison, which really sucks. We do take it pretty well because we are defensive, but still, that's a lot of unnecessary damage on this Pelipper, and it forces me to roost, which gives him a free switch. Not the best play coming out from me in this case, which is a little unfortunate, but that's okay. We go into T-Tar here, which was a completely free switch on his side. I gave him so much room there, which is not good. I'm not keeping up the offensive pressure like what I need to. And so we're going to take sand and we're going to take poison, which is really unfortunate. And so at this point, a smart player would just switch out, would just hard switch out, right? Because it's very obvious that this Tyranitar is definitely faster and is running speed. I am not running speed. However, I thought that I was bold nature and I ended up being relaxed nature. So I was minus speed because Showdown likes to just do that sometimes. And so I'm guaranteed slower than this. And so I don't know what I'm doing in this case. I'm expecting a Thunderbolt to come out here. It's super obvious. The free switch is just to go into Great Tusk. I don't know why this was a hard decision. So I click U-turn and I just give up Pelipper for no reason. So yeah, that was a really bad play on my part. Everything about that turn was super telegraphed and it was super obvious. And I just ran right into it. It's fine. It's fine. So this does give me a free switch though into Palafin. And Palafin, of course, just basically claims a kill every time it comes in, essentially, especially with this Pasho Berry gone. And so I don't know why I don't click Wave Crash and just deal a million to something on his team. We know he's not scarfed or anything like that, so this doesn't reveal that I'm scarfed. And the name of the game that I was kind of trying to go for towards this mid to late game is going to be to bluff that I am not scarfed, to basically make sure that he doesn't know what item I am. And this does end up coming into play later on in the game, and you'll see what I mean by that. But yeah, I want to kind of cloak that I am that I'm scarfed, maybe make him think that I'm possibly banded, or maybe even something else. But I'm basically trying to bluff that I'm banded rather than scarfed. I don't know if he ever figured out that I was scarfed, to be honest, at least until the match was over. But either way, I'm trying to not make that obvious. So yeah, that I would have outsped there. I would have killed no matter what. So that doesn't give anything away really. So he doesn't know if I'm banded. He doesn't know if I'm scarfed. It's still very much up in the air. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good there. So he's got a pretty free switch at this point. Although he did leave Whimsicott pretty low. Remember, it has Prankster. And it's naturally faster than me anyway. And so that's still kind of free here. If he wants to go into that, he could Stun Spore me. He does end up going into Latios. And so he is actually bluffing a Scarf as well. I have every reason to think that he's scarfed here because bringing it in like that, I mean, it is naturally faster, but I mean, still, like, I don't know. That's a big risk to take. If I'm not scarfed or if I am scarfed, that's a pretty big risk. But at the same time, he always lives Wave Crash at half. I think Wave Crash does like 28%, something like that. It's not anywhere near enough. So yeah, I think that play makes sense. So regardless, he ends up winning in that encounter. That's fine. So at this point, I'm just gonna give up Great Tusk. I don't really think that I need it all that much anymore. As long as I've got Palafin, I can deal with T-Tar. I've got Greninja, which I'm scarfed for. I can hit that with a close combat. I've got enough coverage with Palafin to be able to deal with everything. And he does actually end up pulling a really good double. Yeah, that's a really solid double into this. I don't know if he was sacking it, trying to see if I would give away that I'm scarfed. And so at that point, I think that that really is what convinced him that maybe I'm not scarfed, in that I switched out. But I was honestly scared that he was scarfed. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. So either way, either he gives up Whimsicott, which doesn't really matter, or he ends up learning that I'm scarfed there if I were to be so bold as to stay in there. Now, I do bring this back in here, which probably wasn't the best play, but I was kind of feeling out to see what he wanted to go for into this. And so I pull an immediate double into the Archaludon. I'm just really interested to see what he thinks here, and this kind of makes him think that I'm scarfed, but then I immediately backpedal. And so yeah, basically the whole time I'm just trying to sell him that I'm definitely not scarfed. There's nothing going on here that is scarfed. There are no scarves on this Palafin. That's fine. So yeah, we are going to immediately bail on the idea. However, I noticed this after the battle, but I didn't notice this during the battle. I am going to actually switch out first. Spoiler alert, he is going to switch out this turn, but I'm going to switch out first. And so, you know, I don't know his set at the moment, but this should give away that I am actually faster than him, which is kind of rough, right? You know, Whimsicott is base 116, I believe, and Palafin is 100, so it is naturally faster than us. So if he's max speed, which he may or may not be, or at least just enough speed to deal with Palafin, then, you know, that could give that away. He essentially gives up his Swalot at this point, which is totally fine by me because this thing's kind of annoying to deal with. But yeah, if I had gone for Wave Crash there, this would have just gone down, which would have been fine. Instead, he's going to give this to me, and I'm going to miss my Draco, which is really crucial because not only do I take a little bit of damage, but I lose my Assault Vest, and that is going to end up really hurting in the late game. That one 10% chance miss is gonna really put me in a bind. That's really rough miss. But this next turn he is going to stay in once again. Knockoff was absolutely the right play by him to stay in, and you might as well go for it. So no, he made the right play and definitely ends up with a lot more value in doing that than if he had clicked a ground move. So he absolutely made the right play there. We go ahead and Draco take this out, which is pretty cool, but of course it does give him a free switch into whatever he wants to go into. He's got a lot of options that he could go into here, but it is pretty obvious, I think, what he is setting up for his end game, and that is going to be Monkey Dory, our old friend Monkey Dory, wanting to fight against us this time. You know, we did some work with Monkey Dory last season, and now here it comes, but it also can Terra this season. I couldn't Terra it last time. So now it is time to start with some shenanigans, because now Sableye becomes a little bit more important. So if I go into Sableye, I'm going to be immune to a Focus Blast, which is the most obvious thing. I'm also immune to a Psychic, and if he goes for Sludge Wave, I'm not taking that much. The only thing I'm taking a lot of damage from is going to be the Fairy move, but we did pack Roselli Berry specifically for that. He does go ahead and Terra off rip, which is pretty scary, and he is Terra Fairy, which does make a lot of sense. I faced some Terra Psychics in Mox, and that did some work, but Terra Fairy was absolutely the right call here. And so we do eat our Roselli Berry, which does actually allow us to live this Terra Blast, which is good. Do we live it well? No, not really, but the Roselli Berry absolutely saves us, and he does get the Toxic Chain, which is unfortunate. So we'll see if that ends up making an impact later on. So this is the crucial turn, right? This turn is where Sableye either makes or breaks this entire match. Because I could go for Thunder Wave if he wants to stay in. Or if I want to call that he's gonna go into Greninja, now is the time to click the Focus Blast, or the Focus Punch rather. This is the time if it's going to happen. And so I'm like, you know what? Sableye really isn't going to do anything else to anybody else. We got to at least try for the meme, and if nothing else, it's funny even if I go for it and it doesn't work out, right? Because all he has to do is just click the Terra Blast and I die, right? But he thinks I'm going to go for the Thunder Wave, and he does go into the Greninja as we raw Focus Punch. This was the most hype thing. I really wish I was recording when this happened. I was popping off so hard, and boom! We deal like 70-80% to this thing. Oh man, that was the most hype thing ever. I was like shaking. I was so excited afterwards. And so basically, yeah, Sableye's done everything it needs to do. It did a ton of damage to Greninja, and that was really all that I needed it to do. So that was so satisfying to be able to pull off such a goofy and dumb strat like that. It's so fun. It's so fun. I do pretty much have a free switch into the Beartic now, which is pretty cool. And the more that I look at it, the less that going for Terra actually makes sense to me. Being Terra Ice would have definitely been better, or Fairy. Fairy would have been awesome. But it's okay. It's okay. He does go for the Water Shuriken there. I'm gonna be able to eat that pretty easily. And he does get all 5 times, so this means that he is pretty much guaranteed to be loaded dice, which totally makes sense on Greninja. And so we can pretty freely just click Icicle Crash. I mean, it hits Latios, it hits Whimsicott, it's gonna deal a bunch to the Monkey Dory. This doesn't like taking it. I don't think there's any reason to click CC. I mean, and if I click Earthquake and he goes Latios, then I'm screwed, which I mean is unlikely, but still, I think Crash is just super free here. And so I don't know why I don't click that. Yeah, it's pretty free. So he does save this, which makes a ton of sense. That thing is super fast. It still has a lot of value left. And he does go ahead and sack off the Whimsicott. We luckily do hit our Icicle Crash, which is great, and take this thing out. Big Bear taking a KO in its first outing of the season. Hopefully not its last. This thing is super cool, and I'm really glad that we were able to get it on the squad and it come in and do a little bit of work all by itself. Good job. So yeah, my opponent gets a free switch into whatever he wants to go into at this point, and almost anything can take care of Beartic at this point, kind of. So, you know, it is what it is. Beartic is just not as good when it is not raining or snowing, depending on what it's running. We did run Swift Swim this week, but I gave up my Pelipper for absolutely no reason and let it get poisoned and all kinds of stuff. So that's my fault, and it's my fault that this didn't do more work. If I had kept this healthy, it would have done so much work. It would have done really well. But, you know, it is what it is. If I were Terra Fairy at this point, man, that would have been so clutch. That would have been so clutch. But yeah, at this point, I'm like, okay. I mean, Sableye has pretty much done everything it's going to do. Beartic has done almost everything it's going to do. It's really up to our Chaladon and Palafin to clutch this out. And I honestly don't know if that's going to be possible. Just because I am going to have to switch moves in order to KO each of the Mons. So I can't kill the Latios with Wave Crash, I can't kill certain things with Ice Punch. Like, I'm going to have to switch moves up in order for it to work. So I don't know that I've kept enough sacks in order to make sure that my Palafin can actually do its thing. I take forever to pick a move here, but I end up just giving this up. I go for Aqua Jet for a little bit of chip. It deals like, I don't know, 15-20%, nothing too crazy. And he does go for the Focus Blast. That would have been a free switch into Sableye, but I didn't commit to it. And ultimately, I don't think it ended up mattering. So it is what it is. It was at this point that I realized that he was Life Orb. I did not see that the first time, and I was like, maybe this thing's choiced. I don't know. I was kind of scared of everything being choiced in this matchup, but no, he is Life Orb. So with that, I feel a lot safer going back into this. And so with this, I can just click the T-Wave for free. There's no way that he is going Greninja now, because what if I click Focus Punch again, right? He can't do that. So I'm going to T-Wave this. What that means is the bluff of having a scarf, or not having a scarf rather, is still going to be alive. I still look like I don't have a scarf because this is going to be slower than Palafin no matter what. That is kind of the name of the game here at the end, and I'm hoping that he messes up a little bit. So I'm going to go into Palafin because it is free, pretty much. He really can't switch here because anything he wants to go into is going to die to a Wave Crash, or Latios will die to 2. So he really can't switch. He has to give up his Terra Captain at this point because Greninja and Latios are just better. So yeah, this end game is going to be really, really close, and this had me sweating. This was a really, really rough late game for me. So we do kick Wave Crash. That is gonna kill every day of the week, and he does not know that I am Scarfed, which is really, really important. You know, he carries the Water Shuriken on the Greninja, so that means that that is not Scarfed. It is most likely Battle Bond, which could have been really scary, actually. So I'm really glad that I did not allow that to get a KO, because otherwise I could have been in some real trouble. That thing is wild how strong it is. So my opponent has 2 Mons left, Latios and the Greninja, and I have 2 Mons left, Palafin and our Chaladon. He does go into Greninja, which I am EV'd specifically to KO, and Greninja definitely dies to a Wave Crash. I finally reveal that I'm Scarfed and take this thing out. That was a guaranteed KO every day of the week, no problem. So now we get to his final Mon, the Latios, and there are a couple of ways that I could have played this, and I don't know if I should have played this the way that I did, because it was definitely very risky. What I think I should have done here is stay in, get a little bit of damage with Wave Crash, let him KO this, and then go into a Chaladon. However, I was nervous about a possible Dragon move, possibly doing a little bit more to our Chaladon since I don't have my AV. And so I am going to swap into that, let it go down, and then swap moves to Ice Punch. However, I did not calc how much Ice Punch does until after I did this, which was a huge mistake. Turns out that he actually didn't even have a dragon move on his set. It was Luster Purge and a few other things, but he did not have it, and he was Soul Dew on this, which is why it hurts so bad. So I'm gonna click Draco here on the off chance that I live, but because Luster Purge always is going to drop your Spadef, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. I always go down there. So like I said, the safe play and the best play was just to go ahead and get a little bit of damage on that. Then I switch into our Chaladon and guaranteed KO with the Draco. But so we're gonna go into this, and I'm calcing this as I am about to click it, and I'm like, man, my chances don't look very good here. So we click Ice Punch, And we do actually take this thing out. Now listen, I calced this and I'll put this on the screen. That was a 25% chance to KO because he had defense investment on that Latios. That Latios almost ate that. And that was going to be really, really bad. But that was a super close and super fun match between myself and Incog. So huge shout outs to my opponent. Definitely go check out his channel down in the description below. And yeah, we are now 2-2. We have now evened ourselves back up, which is really, really cool. I'm really looking forward to what week 5 has to offer as we go and face Emerald Miner once again. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great week. Stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.